other ones? Like what other rackets
Well, a
are
lot
going
of
on
it,
right now?
to be honest, a lot of it is mostly like prostitution, and then like kind of enslaved prostitution is what I would call it. I don't know if that's
Well, I mean, it's brave. It's brave of you to do it, but it's someone does have to do it, and has to draw attention to this stuff. And that's what I'm saying. Unfortunately, it takes the most salacious, worst examples really hitting home for the entire scab to be opened up. And so all these other things that are happening as well in the human trafficking department that involve the cartels, and more specifically though involve people here on the other end running it and buying it and doing that, in order to draw more attention, that you have to do something that makes people go, whoa, like that's here.
I know.
And maybe something like this, if properly bullhorned, and we're doing our best here to start that, maybe that could draw the attention. The worst part about human trafficking is, to me, or what I mean, there's a lot of worst parts, but one of the worst parts is the pure psychological capture that legitimately happens to the victims. So in this case, an infant actually isn't a good example. I'm talking about people who are older and can talk, and whether that be an older child or even an
young
adult.
adults. Yeah.
And it's like, for example, how could someone get on a commercial flight with their trafficker and not say something to someone? Because they're completely psychologically brainwashed and tortured and threatened under the control of that person, who is a sick, total sociopath, to the point that they can be emotionless and not react and seem like everything's cool, that they will get on that flight and pretend that they're the wife or the daughter or something and go along with it. And I don't think people appreciate enough how much that can happen to anybody. This isn't like, some people are going to be more likely. No, like, if you get in that type of situation and they know how to threaten you and poke just the right buttons to get you to the point of absolute fear and surrender, that's what's going to happen. And unfortunately, it happens all the time in America.
Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to invoke fear in someone who's emotionally vulnerable and take complete control of that person. I mean, even you think about it, like a good example of this, it'd be like in your personal life, if you think of any like sort of toxic relationship you've had, whether that's romantic or friendly or with your family members, where it's like, this person scares me and I hide things from them and I don't know what to do. And when I'm around them, it's like you freeze, right? But why do you keep that person in your life? Because you're being like emotionally manipulated.
Right.
So imagine someone, you include drugs in that mix, you include money, you include sex, the whole fucking gauntlet of what encapsulates human trafficking, and it's run like a business, and then also violence. How do you expect people to get out of that? Or to ask for help? Because these people are being told that you ask for help, I am all knowing and I will fuck you up and your family.
And you know what really, really, and you're fighting the winds of this right now with any story, let alone this one, what really doesn't help right now is when you have a story like Epstein so out in the open.
I know.
Where, he was just his own sadistic fuck, and all the people who hung out with him, they're fine. Don't worry about it. And his victims, many of whom are just incredibly brave and have spoken out for years about this. In many cases, there's a lot of women who've spoken out for years. They continue to, and it's sick because it feels like they're screaming into an abyss. And yet we are all also aware of it. We all hear it. Like, everyone knows the Epstein story. We know it's all bullshit.
But it's literally gone to a point where people are desensitized by it.
Exactly. That's my point. And it's like you're desensitized not only by what happened, because you've talked about it so many fucking times that it's like, oh yeah, right, the guy that women and little girls, yeah. Like, that's sick that even gets to that point for some people. But it's also like you're desensitized by the lack of justice, and you're like, oh, I guess if you're powerful enough,
that's just how it works.
That's just how it works.
Yeah, which is another reason why, like, I was like, I'm never covering this shit, because it will not change anything. If anything, it will just do harm. Because people are like, yeah, we know it happens. It's scary. It's really bad. But there's no justice that comes of it. The people who are involved in it run really high up the food chain.
Yeah.
what is little me and you gonna do about that?
Now that you have begun to cover this story though, and really look deeply on this, have you, in the course of your journalism and reporting, learned more about the other types of human trafficking tactics that are actively being used by the cartels in general, be it CJNG or other ones? Like, what other rackets
Well, a
are
lot
going
of
on
it,
right now?
to be honest, a lot of it is mostly like prostitution, and then like kind of enslaved prostitution is what I would call it. I don't know if
That's nice.
you always laugh at the worst. Enslaved
I'm not even
prostitution.
laughing. It's just like we're throwing around these terms like it's
Completely
like it's a dictionary, and
demonetized.
it's like, no, that's fine. I'm just like I'm demonetizing this episode myself. Like YouTube's not going to I will demonetize this. Like it's sensitive subject matter, but it's like, oh, enslaved prostitution. That's better. Like that's almost like where we're at with this.
There's a really good series on Netflix. It was done by a production company run by two female journalists, and it's called Zona Divas, and it basically takes you through how women were being brought into Mexico by some really powerful businessmen with, like, you know, criminals. And I mean, synonymous, right? And then they're being brought in from like Venezuela, Colombia, into Mexico to work as prostitutes. They had to, quote unquote, pay their debt, which obviously never disappeared because they were like being offered work. So it was like, hey, you want to come and make a bunch of money? We'll pay for your flight. We'll pay for your accommodation. You start working as a prostitute. You pay us that back. But obviously over the course of that period, you're incurring more and more debt. And then a lot of these women kind of started to band together and they wanted to go independent. Then they were turning up dead. And so this, to really understand, I think, how this human trafficking works, starting all the way from South America up into, you know, Central, North America, you know, the whole gauntlet. That's a really good series. And it was done by some incredibly reputable journalists that I really appreciate.
What was it called again?
Zona Divas.
Let's pull that up.
And
give them
that
some love.
was the name of the page where you would go and solicit these prostitutes. It was shut down, but it still exists under the name VIP Boutique.
VIP Boutique.
Bougie, right?
I mean, it's modern day, even more fucked up indentured servitude. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
If you know the history of that, like this is worse, but same concept.
I have like a big problem with this type of stuff because I feel like this is like hot take, but in like the US, Canada, whatever, there's been like this movement to really be like, sex work is empowering and freeing for women. But then when you're in my line of work and you're seeing like just how enslaving it is, it's really hard for me to buy that notion. Right. Because these women are like dying for it. They're being impregnated. They're like forcefully, they're being beaten up. They're literally like their physical health completely deteriorates. Oh, yeah. It is actually the most complete opposite from empowering in any sense. And so I always kind of want to bring that up when I talk about this because, yeah, like, I don't know. It just bothers me. So the human trafficking and the sex trafficking, this has always been a thing. And these girls are brought into Mexico from like Colombia, Venezuela, very top countries for that. Brazil. And then a lot of them are even sent into the US. A lot of them work in Mexico City. A lot of them work in border towns like Tijuana. You'll see, right? Go by the Hong Kong. And then, like I said, they have to pay this debt. They're really not making much money. And then if they want, like what this series shows is these women who tried to go independent because they were making money, you know, they had their own clientele list. The men in charge were like, kill her. She's done. She's done. And most of these guys who are responsible for that, they're free.
Well, that's the least surprising part of your story, sadly. But, you know, I believe in your freedom to make decisions about your life, and I believe in free speech very strongly. right?
Makes two of us.
Okay. So I think if you want to go start an OnlyFans or if you want to be a porn star, you should be allowed to do that. And if you want to go, which by the way, there's a whole obviously dark side of the porn industry where it's literally human trafficking.
It's
but
so bad.
let's focus on the not side of that, where someone just freely decides to do that, and whatever. And you want to sexualize yourself online, and other people are free to watch that. It's part of free speech. It's a negative, but I think you can't draw the line anywhere with free speech is my point. That's fine. That said, though, you mentioned a few minutes ago in another context desensitization that happens in society, and then how other things carry the ball downhill from that.
Yeah.
Especially let's pick on OnlyFans and that whole culture and whatever.
I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah, I've never been on it. And I never will go on it. I don't understand it. I don't understand how a guy can go on that and think that there's any sort of connection with this person. But then again, there's guys who are falling in love with AIs. So
yeah, I mean,
I guess whatever floats your boat. But that culture and that desensitization plays into the lack of, I guess, what's the word? Like the lack of outcry and, we need to solve this type of situation that pervades hearing about even trafficked prostitution rings and stuff like that. People are like, oh, yeah, well, like you see what I'm saying? There's some sort of like desensitized tie that kind of turns people's brains off where they don't realize just how serious that stuff is because they're so used to just seeing ass and titties online.
And my opinion about this, outside of being Katarina the journalist, but just Katarina, is I think that overt, open sexualization and perversion has further enforced this notion that women are sexual objects. And if you go to a strip club in Mexico City and these girls are giving blowjobs, it's fuck yeah, who cares? There is no sense of understanding of where that all started and why that's happening, because also we're just constantly being fed sex all the time. And it's just so blatant. I open social media and first of all, I'm always getting comments. I will literally report on something like this and someone will fucking have the audacity to comment and be like, do you have an OnlyFans? Or when's the OnlyFans coming? Yeah. So that's what you get reduced to as a woman anyways. Okay, so first of all, slap in the face. But then second of all, it's you're just constantly being fed sex in a way that it's you don't, it's not even natural anymore. It doesn't make sense. And then that, I think, perpetuates violence. This is obviously this is outside of scope of my reporting, but I've seen it too in my reporting and in talking with women who are victims of sex trafficking. Yeah. Whatever, forced sex labor, whatever it is that they're doing. And none of them are happy. And I think a lot of men fail to understand that. She does not want to be there. I can literally guarantee you that. Even if she tells you she does, even if she's happy with your money or, makes you feel whatever type of pleasure, no woman wants to do that. I could put my life on that. And I personally know people, of course, as we all do, who do OnlyFans or have done this, whatever, outside of the monetary gain, all negative impacts. There's nothing good that comes out of that. I understand, and I can understand being in a situation where you feel like that's all you can do. And I'm not vilifying any of these people, but it has completely changed the public perception of sex, sexual violence, and then sex trafficking. So then when you have these women who are absolute victims to the core, they're not even being viewed as that by the public because everyone is so fucking desensitized.
Yeah. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.